So we are immediately going to scratch that in there. So you really do have to control it quite a bit. Not like that. And remember, just when you think you have enough TEF tape on there, give it another lap. Or political signs out of, you know, things I don't care about. Oh, I didn't want to hold too high. Oh, better close that glue. Don't want my birds getting high. Well, it is nesting box day. I've already got their nesting boxes put in with a 1/2 inch of shavings in the bottom, a pile of straw on top. Prissa's only had her box for like an hour, and she's already pulling fur and nesting, so we're doing good there. But the rabbits are no longer the only animal I have. Now I have the quail. So they need some feeders and some waters built, and also some little guards that I'm gonna build to go over the egg rollout trays. So let's jump right into that because it's a beautiful sunny day and I'd like to get some work done. This is that plastic material that they make cardboard or political signs out of, you know, things I don't care about, politics. Anyway, so I've got this little rip here of hardware cloth. This is just leftover from the hutch build, and it's 36 inches wide. I don't even have to get a tape measure out. I know that this is the width I need, and I fitted this over the egg tray. This will give me effectively a 1/2 inch gap to clear everything, and this will be the guard that goes over the top of the egg rollout trays. So I'm going to get this cut out, and then we're going to go mount it on there. Couple of regular old zip ties. Slide that through the cuts we just made. Now I'm going to drop those zip ties through the egg rollout trays, through the wire, as close as I can get it on the outside edge. And that's it. You roll the zip ties underneath if you wanted to make it look fancy, but now every day when I come out to collect the eggs, grab what I need, close it back up. That'll keep them protected from any critters trying to come out here and steal the eggs. That'll keep the quail from coming outside underneath of that rollout tray. Still gives me plenty of access once it's open to get the doors open if I need to do any maintenance inside. Just like so. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This is like overkill. Most people aren't having any issues with the quail getting out, having a jumbo Caternix. But just a safety measure, keep my eggs and my birds safe. Next thing we do is get some feeders built for these guys. Now we're moving on to the quail feeders. So I have some Sterilite totes. Pick these up at Walmart for like $1.99 a piece. Make sure you get the lids with them. So this is where we're going to make the no mess quail feeders out of. And the easiest way I've found to do it, I have an 1.5 inch hole saw bit, and we're going to mark out 3 holes that we'll punch along the side, and then 1 on each end. That way we'll be able to have 3 birds here, 3 birds here, 2 birds here, all feeding at the same time. We're going to contain all the food within here so that as they, I don't know why the quail do this, they shake their head and they make a mess and they kick the feed all over the place. It stays contained inside of here. So to drill those out, got my 1.5" bit, and I have a chunk of 4x4 here. And what I'm going to do is hang the 4x4 off the edge of the table so that this lays flat and we've got a good solid backer to drill through and punch those holes out. 2 inches up, 1 on center, 3 inches either side. Put the layout all the way around. And of course, every couple holes, we have to stop and pull the plastic plug out. Now, if you have a deburring tool, I'd say now is the time to use it. Go ahead and clean up all that rough plastic. And do be careful with these cheap totes. They will try to hairline crack on you. So just be gentle. Couple passes. You could absolutely do this with a razor knife if you wanted. But I have a deburring tool, so why not make best use of it? Well, that's it. Very simple to build, maybe 5 minutes a piece. Let's go fill this up and throw this in with the quail chicks. Their feeders currently, they're going through them every single day. We're going to get them used to running out of this feeder, plus this one will hold a lot more, so I can run them for a couple days on this. So let's go through it in for a proof of concept. Yeah, the first one's already found it. He's got his head in the hole, he's in there munching. The others will figure it out very shortly. Yes, the brooder is packed. I need a bigger brooder if I'm going to be doing this many quail at a time. I still have 35 in here. They're only going to be in here maybe another 2 or 3 days before they're heading outside into the hutch. So it's a good time to introduce them to their new feeder. And now we need to get onto the watering system. All right, time to see for you guys how bad my plumbing skills are. So, got a Home Depot bucket here. First thing we're going to do, knock a hole in it about 1.5 inches up off of the bottom. And somewhere in my pile of fittings here, I'll show you, we're going to put a bung in the side of this so we can get the water coming out of here. The reason we're going to drill it high, we want to make sure if there's any sediment that ends up in here, it doesn't get flowing down and into the cups and potentially clog them up and flood the system. So I'm going to mark a hole real quick and knock it out. Nothing much to it. Say 7/8 hole saw, and we're going to take a male adapter and a female adapter, and we're going to shove them through that hole. But obviously that's not going to seal up, and you could get a bulkhead fitting to do this, but they're a lot more expensive. So instead, get you a couple of the washers for your garden hose, all the fittings. You know, these are the things that for whatever reason they always stick to the garden hose side when you take the sprayer head off, and then the next time you go to use it, it just sprays water all over the place and pisses you off. So we'll grab a couple of these, and I'm going to thread these down over the top, and then I'm going to put the fitting inside the bucket. I'm going to take another one on the inside of the bucket, and then we're going to use the female adapter to crush both of those and lock it in place so that we're effectively creating a bulkhead. So we are immediately going to scratch that because apparently these gaskets from Home Depot are some Chinesium junk. They just split trying to put them on. So switched over to some 3/4 inch by 1 inch O-rings. We'll use that as our connector. I've already got the fitting tightened down. You can see, so it's just up off of the bottom. Now we've got a pipe connection on the side here on the bottom of the bucket. This will get a little victory lap of silicone, and we'll let that cure up, and that'll be our connection port, and so that way we have our reservoir. So the next piece that we can prefabricate is we're going to make the actual watering rail. So my hutch in particular is 4 layers deep. So we're going to have to make 4 of these. Mine are 13 inches long, and I've separated the drip nozzles by 3.5 inches. And that way, once they're in place, all I have to do is clip out a hole in the side of the wire, and this will slide through the wire, and then it'll get zip tied in place on the ends. And I am going to have caps on the end just in case I ever need to flush the system out. And then on the handrail side, we'll have a T like so. This is going to be the made feed line, and then each one of the cages will have this runner coming out, and these will be just inside the cage. We'll go show you guys how they're going to sit real quick. Now you can see I already have all the holes cut just because I'm basically templating off the top one, and then we'll mimic this build 4 more times. So I got the holes cut, and that will sit just like that. And then they'll be able to get in, get the water that they need. I will have to throw some Teflon tape around the threads on these, not a big deal. Now, just building this one as my template, I've already discovered something. So, wherever I put them. So I am running the water nipples from Rent-A-Coop. These come highly recommended by a lot of people that raise quail. I really apologize about how noisy that duck is. He is a talker. So anyways, these have 1/8 inch NPT threads. I hesitate to call them NPT because there's a lot more taper right there. Now that being said, you could absolutely take an 1/8 inch NPT tap and tap that Schedule 40 1/2 inch PVC. But I've quickly discovered as I tapped this first one, the threads did not want to bite until maybe 2 or 3 threads before this thing was running out. So instead of tapping them, you can just run them in. If you can see the threads that are in there, those threads were basically cut by just rolling this thing in. And you can do it with hand pressure, even though it comes with an installation tool for putting these in. That being said, I will be putting some Teflon tape around here to minimize any leaks. You can buy custom T-fittings that are threaded 1/8 inch NPT, but I kind of ran out of time, so I'm putting them straight into the pipe instead of having to cut and build several sections out. So I've already selected these will be 13 inches long. I already have 4 of them cut, so we're going to mark them out, drill them, put these in, and we'll get them staged onto the side of the coop, and then we'll run the main feed line over here on the side. Now, just so I have a really nice flat line to make all of my marks on, I'm going to take this big flat sheet of aluminum. I'm going to take my permanent marker, lay it down flat, drag her across. And that gives me a perfectly flat straight line that I can reference off of so that each one of the waterers is in the same plane. That way, once it gets mounted in, I don't have one facing down, one facing up, and then they're all dribbling all weird. Just a nice straight reference line to start off of. Since I already have this one built, I can just use it as my reference, line up where it fits on the end of that fitting. Of course, I'm going to roll it around so I can see my reference line. Right about there. One there, one there, one there. And it does say in the directions you drill this hole for 11-30 seconds, but I'll be starting it with an 1/8 inch pilot bit. That way I can really hone in on hitting that center mark. Otherwise, if you're just trying to use a big drill bit, if it tries to walk off just a little bit, you might end up with these things facing, 10 degrees apart. So I'm going to try and make it as accurate as I can. Pop those holes, switch out to the big bit, give them a quick victory lap with the deburring tool, and we'll be ready to thread in the other fittings. It's really not that necessary to deburr this exact moment, but I want to minimize the chance of any of those chips grabbing hold of this bit and yanking it off course. And because you are drilling plastic, the stuff is very soft. It will try to grab the bit and sink it in there. So you really do have to control it quite a bit. Not like that. But if you do that, make sure you get all the plastic out of the middle. That'll clog up the nipples. You might even be best off to do that on a drill press where you can really control it. But I don't have mine set up at the moment. So make sure we're all clear through the inside. I gotta grab a punch rod and get a couple shavings out of there. And then we can put those nipples in after we wrap them with a little bit of teff tape. And remember, just when you think you have enough teff tape on there, give it another lap. It's worth the safety. This stuff is so cheap versus coming back and having to tear the system apart, clean something out, or replacing the teff tape. Just put a little extra on there. It ain't gonna hurt it. Nice thing about that reference line, you can look down it and you can see across the watering nozzles. Make sure they're lined up real nice. 2 more to go. Now this is a gravity feed system, so there's really not going to be any numberable amount of pressure on it. But I am going to glue up this joint. I'm going to leave this cap loose. This is basically for maintenance if I ever need to flush out an individual rail. If this ends up seeping, I can glue it on because it's not a problem to grab a pipe cutter and nip it off, and I can put the cap back on. But because I am gluing this up and I want to keep these in line, I do have a reference line coming across the fitting so I can dab some glue in there, and when I put it back on, I have 2 lines that I can line up to make sure this is 90 degrees, so when it goes on, my supply line stays in line between all of these. You always want to push it on and then give it a little bit of a twist. Don't line it up when you first put it on. That little bit of a twist spreads the glue out in the joint. Found that out when I was plumbing. Helps a lot. All right, I got 2 more of these that I need to go through and put the teff tape and the T on, and then we'll go cut the wire and get them all placed onto the hutch. So here's the top one that I already showed you guys we cut out. So that T is glued up, and those are all teff tape, and this cap is just sitting on there. You know, obviously it's shoved on good, but if it leaks, like I said, later, it's not a big deal. I can pull it off and glue it. And I got 2 zip ties mounting it in place. It still has some wiggle, which is exactly what I want, because we're going to get all of these mounted on all 4 layers of the hutch, and then we're going to cut the pipe that goes in between them. Now this one will be a little bit more difficult because I already have some birds in here due to time constraints, my brooder being too small. I've got all the roosters already placed out here, and they've been out here for 2 days. They are doing just dandy. Everybody's happy. They got plenty of room, but it's time to get their water mounted right here. So I'm going to do my best to keep all of these T-fittings in line, and I'm kind of using my fencing right here as my reference. And I want these set about 4 inches off the bottom. That way an adult quail can get to it. If I end up having to put chicks in here for some reason, I can just set a 2x4 on the egg rollout tray and they can step up and get to the water. So I'm gonna get this lined up and I'm gonna mark out which wires I need to cut. Now I'm gonna mark that out in a square and I'll snip them out. Can everybody stay in there, please? Oh, I don't even want to hold too high. Now I'm still going to leave that loose so I can get all of my supply line pieces cut and have room to move these as I need to glue them up. Oh, better close that glue. Don't want my birds getting high. Alright, I got all 4 rows on. The last thing I'm going to do, I've got a shutoff valve, about a 5-inch piece. This is going to get mounted on the bottom. That'll get the valve down below the egg laying tray. Should I ever need to drain the system out quick, like, you know, freezing temperatures, anything like that, I can just dump that valve and we can drop all the water on the ground. I can also use that for maintenance if I need to do anything on the system, drain it real quick. So I'm gonna get that guy glued up in there. Well, I've got all the work inside of the cage done, so I guess it's time for the girls to head outside, which is good because the brooder's about due for a cleaning. So there's the final plumbing. Got our bung coming out. I made a dum-dum and bought a 3/4 inch fitting, so I had to go run in town, grab a bushing, knock it back down to 1/2 inch. I put a compression fitting in line so that if I ever need to pull the bucket, do any maintenance to it, I can just untwist here, pull that apart. 90 came over. Now the reason I had to put this in here is because I have a metal roof. Like I said, this is meant to be an indoor hutch, but me running it as an outdoor, I've got a sheet of metal roofing sitting up here, keep the birds dry. So I had to kick the pipe out to go around it. So now I've got maintenance, I can take it apart here. I've got maintenance that I can drain it at the bottom. I think if a guy had a couple extra bucks to spend, I would grab a couple more of those shutoff valves and put them in between each layer so you could, you know, kill the water to one individual system, and then you could do any maintenance you need on the nozzles. But for my purposes and being cheap, this will do just fine. The boys figured it out real quick. The girls were a little bit slower. All right, so we got our watering system in. We got all of our feeders in place. We have our egg rollout tray protectors. These guys are now fully set up. At this point, I should only have to come out every 2 to 3 days for feeding, and we're gonna see how long the water lasts. I'm gonna assume it's probably gonna last 4 or 5 days between having to fill that bucket. So this has been a fun little project that I've enjoyed. You know, I'm getting more and more into the homesteading type of content and being as self-sufficient as I can. And, you know, it all started with the wood gas. You know, I grew up in the country and we raised animals. I've had chickens, turkeys. We've had horses before. We've had pigs multiple times. We've done cattle. Throughout my life, I've done a lot of different farm animals, but I have never done quail, and I had never done rabbits, which now I'm doing videos on those over there as well. These guys are all set. From now, they're currently 3.5 weeks old, so probably in the next 2 weeks, I'll start getting some eggs. By about week 6, I should have starting to get some fertile eggs. I'm probably going to wait till week 7 to start incubating any more. I've got 2 more hutches down below that I can start running my meat birds in, because currently I have them separated. These are my hens and these are my roosters. Probably about 7 to 8 weeks, I'm going to go through and weigh out the roosters and find the biggest ones, the biggest, strongest, healthiest ones. Those are going to be my breeders. The rest of the roosters will end up getting butchered, and those strong roosters will go up here to hang out with the hens and give me the biggest, strongest chicks that I can get for my meat bird production. Yeah, it's been a fun little project, and this is it's just another way for me to be as prepared as I can, because if we've learned anything very recently by a certain hurricane down in North Carolina, is that it doesn't matter how prepared you are, it doesn't matter how set up you think you are, it can be gone. All of it. I'm sure there was a lot of homesteaders and prepper type of people in North Carolina that just had everything ripped away from them in the blink of an eye, and now they've got nothing. You try to be as prepared as you can for whatever situation you can. This is one of my preparations in food, self-sustainable food, as much as it can be. I still have to buy feed from the store. I can't effectively grow grain on the property that I have. But I'm trying to be as efficient as I can. This is going to produce meat and eggs, which I can help out in my community. If anybody I know needs eggs or needs meat and times are hard, I have this. I have the rabbits, I have my chickens, I have my ducks. I can help out where I can. Yeah, I'm obviously trying to make this as efficient as I can for my own family, but I'm here for my community. Your community is the most important thing you have. Being a loner, been doing it for years. It's so much easier when you have a tribe. It's so much easier when you have a community that works together. That being said, I'm going to put a link in the description. My buddy Alex over at P&W Gorilla, he is putting together a fundraiser right now. We're raising money for hurricane relief efforts. We're buying a whole bunch of military surplus. Blankets, whoobies, hats, gloves, cold weather equipment, and we're sending it down there to them in Asheville, North Carolina. We're gonna get them outfitted with as much gear as we possibly can afford. Our goal is $50,000. We're currently at about $39,000. If you want to go over to ODGG LLC and make an order of surplus, currently all funds that we're making off of orders are going directly to the hurricane efforts. There's also a fundraiser on there. It's $10 you can donate. You can donate as much as you want. And we're going to help out our community as much as we possibly can. So, in this video being my effort of helping myself and my community with whatever food and eggs I can possibly get to people if they need it, or provide for my own family. Community's everything, guys. Thanks for watching.